I'm Lisa Willner. I'm the state representative from House District 35. I'm also a licensed psychologist, and I taught in the psychology department at Bellarmine for 20 years, where I taught developmental psychology and taught a lot about social and emotional development. And I want to say that we're not here today to debate the merits of so-called conversion therapy. The research is robust, and the evidence is clear. Efforts to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity are not effective, and these efforts are associated with many severe symptoms and sometimes deadly consequences. Senator Kerr talked about suicide rates. Suicide attempt rates are extremely high for LGBT youth who've been exposed to these kinds of treatments. Other associated risks involve drug use, engaging in unsafe sex, loss of faith, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, self-harm, and the list goes on and on and on. It's really gratifying that the groups who are speaking out against these dangerous sexual orientation change efforts or efforts to change a person's romantic attractions are coming now from many directions: medical, mental health professionals, religious leaders, former leaders of the ex-gay movement who once promoted conversion therapy and these practices, and policymakers from across the political spectrum. This is very much a bipartisan effort. I hope that you've seen the support materials that we sent with the committee agenda. Take a look, please, at the letter from the Kentucky Medical Association, the Kentucky Nursing Association, many representatives of Catholic clergy, 289 University of Louisville and University of Kentucky med students, Kentucky Youth Advocates, Kentucky Mental Health Coalition, Foundation for Healthy Kentucky, and many more. So I want to fully acknowledge, and Senator Kerr already mentioned this, we want to acknowledge that there are good and loving people who want this practice to work, who desperately want to believe in this practice, but the facts remain that the practices to change sexual orientation, gender identity, attraction are dangerous, discredited, and sometimes deadly. As legislators, you know we don't always agree, but one of the places where we come together time and again is to stand up and protect Kentucky's children, all of Kentucky's children. And I know that's so important to all of us in this room. And one of the things that we've been criticized, we've received some criticism about this bill, is that it won't stop every bit of conversion therapy from happening in Kentucky. And we acknowledge that to be true. This will not stop some groups from practicing and engaging in these dangerous activities. But that doesn't mean we should not do everything that we can as policymakers to take common sense, practical steps to protect as many of our Kentucky youth as we possibly can. And there are 3 practical steps we can take. 1, we can ensure that no licensed health provider is engaging in these practices for youth under 18 years old. As a license holder myself, and as for this committee, you know that the bare minimum that a Kentucky license ought to mean is that folks who hold one are not engaging in dangerous and potentially deadly practices. The second step is to ensure that no public dollars of any sort are going to any agency in our state that engages in providing these practices. And the third step that we can take, and we borrowed this from Senator Adams' bill on genital mutilation, we can create and disseminate evidence-based information to inform agencies who work with youth to make sure that they understand the dangers and the risks associated. I'm going to turn the floor over to my friend. We've become friends in the course of this, Zach Miners. But before I do that, I want to ask you to engage with me very briefly in a little empathy exercise. And I'm going to ask each of you, if you can, to imagine yourselves at 12, 13, 14 years old, a uniquely vulnerable time in human development, a time when we are very concerned about what others think of us, where we are deeply concerned and sensitive to criticism, where we are quick to feel ridicule. This is a time where we're trying to figure out who we are, what we want to be, how we want to be perceived. And so I invite you to listen to Zach from that place, imagining yourself at that time of life, or your children or your grandchildren at that time of life. And thank you very much.